Hello, everybody. I'm Skip Elsheimer, and welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show, where we watch old 16mm films from our collection. That last film was actually an 8mm film.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, hold on.
I'm Skip Elsheimer, and welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime.
When you have a room full of computers and some of them are streaming, you sometimes forget to mute them. So anyways, that's what that was. Okay, so, as an explanation... oh wow, I totally messed up the title for that. It should be the Kodak Hula Show and not Hulu Show. And so this was, and I've run across this, I've never been to Hawaii, but in a lot of home movies of people visiting Hawaii, there is this hula show sponsored by Kodak. And it's beautifully colored. And actually I'm going to run this as I'm talking. So the scan, so I split this in half. So what's on the left is the scan of faded Ektachrome, which is the cheaper color format that Kodak came up with to replace, ultimately, Kodachrome. And so there's an irony here. The irony is that, so I color corrected on the right. And this is a quick and dirty color correct. I did it this morning before the show. I was like, oh, I wonder what I can do. So it's not completely balanced. It seems to be a little green, bluish. But basically, so they would have this event, I think every day, and it would be sponsored by Kodak, and it's all colorful, so ideally people would buy Kodak film and they would shoot it, and that would be part of their Hawaiian experience, and also would be an advertisement for Kodak. You could also buy what was called a souvenir film, where, you know, if you didn't have the film, or you didn't have a camera, but you wanted to capture it, then you could pay X amount of money for this. So this is Kodak's opportunity to show you how beautiful and vivid the color is. But they put it on the crappy Ektachrome, which faded to red. And so I was able to kind of get some color back. And if I go in and spend more time on it, I can make it more natural and not so greenish bluish. But it's frustrating. And ultimately, this is the problem with Kodak, is Kodak let an amazing format, Kodachrome, go away, and they replaced it with something that wasn't so great, that faded, and they were okay with that. And they eventually let Kodachrome go away, even though it's stunning. Every time we show Kodachrome on here, it's really quite stunning. So, anyhow, yeah, we run across these souvenir films occasionally, and almost all of them are on Ektachrome, and they're just like of historic Williamsburg, of these other places, and they're just not so great. All right, so speaking of watching 16mm films, this is a film, a wonderful film. I like showing films that talk about food groups. And this one has the most food groups of any of the films. We did a show called Why We're Fat, where I showed the levels of food groups from 7, which this film has, all the way down to 2 food groups. And depending on who made the film, it was depending on how many food groups there were and how important they were to your diet. So this is The Man Who Missed Breakfast.
Penny, dear.
Mother?
Don't you think you should turn the radio off? Daddy should be home from the station any minute now with Uncle Bill. And Uncle Bill might not like radio music. What are you doing, Bill?
Well, I was just watching her eat all this stuff.
Why, of course. Living things have to eat lots of nutritious foods so that they can be strong and healthy and bright.
Well, all he ate was a worm, nothing else. I watched him. That may be all it ate while you watched it, but before it gets food, it'll eat simply lots of things, won't it, Mother?
That's right. Little grains of seeds and crumbs and fruit, like berries. And it might even get a few tiny scraps of egg or meat.
Look, Mother, I put Uncle Bill's name in our chart. If he eats everything he should today, we'll give him a star, too.
Now, you two children mustn't bother Uncle Bill. Remember, he's our guest. He might not like some things we eat.
Okay. All right, Mother. There's Daddy and Uncle Bill now.
Children, wait now. I want you to be polite. They'll come in.
Where's Uncle Bill? Yeah, where is he? What happened?
I don't know. I met the train, but he wasn't on it. I thought we might have had a wire or something.
We haven't had a word.
We might as well not wait any longer. I'll be late at the office if we do.
We'll hear from him later, of course. And I'll telephone you at the office.
Daddy, just what does Uncle Bill do?
Oh, he's a businessman, Penny. He's a director in a number of things. Remember, I haven't seen Uncle Bill for years.
We have a director of athletics at school.
Well, Uncle Bill isn't that kind of a director.
Does he have to take his cod liver oil and drink his milk and orange juice?
Well, that might be Uncle Bill now. I'll answer it, dear. Hello? Yes, speaking. No, go right ahead. Yes? Yes? No, it isn't necessary. Mail a copy out, please.
Was it Uncle Bill, Daddy?
It was a telegram from him. He missed connections at the junction.
Oh, that's too bad.
I know, but he said he'd surely be here for dinner tonight.
Did he miss his breakfast, Daddy?
His telegram didn't say, but from the looks of all this food, I'd say he was going to miss a mighty fine breakfast. Now, let's get busy and earn 1/3 of that star. Remember, no waste, clean plates, but enough to make us healthy, wealthy, and wise.
So, you're worried because I missed my breakfast.
He's afraid you won't get a star.
What star?
Well, you see, the children, that is, we're all interested in seeing that we eat basic nutritional foods each day. If we do, we get a star on Penny's chart.
Wish I'd had a chart like that when I was a kid. Maybe I'd look as healthy as all of you do. Let's see. Why, I don't see why I don't get a star. Why, I've had all 7 right here at this table tonight.
You haven't gotten enough. You missed your breakfast, Uncle Bill.
Why, how could I eat any breakfast when my Pullman car was out in the country on a siding where I couldn't go to a restaurant or find any food?
Well, right here in our yard, I saw a bird eat a worm for its breakfast.
Young man, I don't like worms for breakfast.
Uncle Bill, did you have any lunch? My teacher told us we should all eat 3 meals a day to get the right amounts we need. But if you had a good lunch...
Well, I was late getting here. I didn't have time to go out for lunch. But I had a sandwich and a cup of coffee sent up to me. I didn't eat the sandwich because it was dried out. I didn't drink the coffee because it was cold.
Oh. Daddy says you were a director. Were you busy directoring things?
No, not this time. The other fellow was doing that.
We almost missed it. Excuse me while I turn on the radio.
But Daddy, Uncle Bill might not like the radio turned on.
Well, if Uncle Bill doesn't like this program, I don't know what we can do about it. I think this is it. Let's all listen quietly.
As a part of our observance of the national campaign to interest all Americans in the importance of eating all 7 of the basic nutritional foods each day, we bring you each day at this time a message from some important person distinguished in his or her field. Tonight, we bring you a message on nutrition from a famous industrialist and business leader, Mr. William Warren. Mr. Warren.
You mean Uncle Bill?
Never in the history of our nation has there been greater need for all Americans to be strong, healthy, and vigorously able to perform the heroic tasks which all of us now face. With millions of our young people now wearing our fighting uniforms and fighting our battles for freedom, from oppression and from want, it is our duty to keep them supplied wherever they are, and to keep this country, the great free land of abundance and opportunity they want to come home to. We are engaged in the greatest job ever undertaken by any nation. It is not a job for weaklings. We must have iron and steel in unlimited quantities, and ships of all kinds, millions of feet of lumber for now and later. Our great manufacturing plants must be kept running day and night, and when this war is over, these plants must be quickly reconverted to our peacetime needs to supply the millions of worn-out items we're waiting to buy. Our biggest job is only beginning. To get this job done, we must eat properly so that we have the health, the strength, the energy, and the stamina to do it. Proper eating is very simple and should be within the reach of everyone. It is certainly something everyone can do something about every day. It just means eating the right food in the proper amount at regular times. Proper eating is the difference between full, vital, disease-resisting strength and weakness. Basically, the foods are divided into 7 groups. Number 1 is green and yellow vegetables, some to be eaten raw, some cooked. The second group includes citrus fruits and salad greens. There are many in this group, but if they're scarce, alternates may be used. The third group is probably the biggest group of all. Many may be used as seasonal alternates, or Group 2. Group 4 consists of nature's most complete food, milk, and its products. Group 5 offers an almost endless variety. This group provides the protein for the main dish, around which most meals are planned. In number 6 are breads and cereals made from natural whole grain, or enriched or restored with much of the grain's natural goodness. In number 7, there are butter and fortified margarines and other fats containing one of the vitamins essential to good health. I've been able to get many publications on the subject of foods we need for good nutrition, their selection and preparation. They are available to everyone free through the state and local nutrition committees. There is an abundance of food being produced in America, but our needs are so great that we must make it go further and do more. We must practice conservation. We must become not a wasteful but a frugal nation, selecting foods wisely from their basic groups and preparing them properly so that none of their wholesomeness and goodness is lost or wasted. The right foods promote growth and development and repair wasted tissues. By eating 3 good meals a day, built around the basic 7 groups of foods, everyone can practice good nutrition. In our great industrial and manufacturing plants, more and more attention is being given to the rules of sound nutrition. Our school children, the men and women of tomorrow, are forming their eating habits through basically sound instruction in good nutrition. Our great athletes and athletic teams know the importance of eating properly. From the beginning of their training, they have been aware that the cornerstone of their ability and performance depends upon the foods they eat. And, of course, one of the big reasons our fighting men have been invincible is the fact that they are fed right. They should be. So must we all. We must adapt our food and eating habits towards maintaining good nutrition by selecting wisely and eating regularly every day. Tomorrow, eat a good breakfast to start a good day. Thank you.
Oh, Uncle Bill, all along you knew about the basic 7. You're just teasing us.
Why, sure. That's what I was doing today, making a recording for the radio program. You know, I think you and little Bill, the smartest little people I've ever known. I'm proud of both of you.
We think it was mean of you and Daddy not to tell us, don't we, children?
But you still only get a piece of a star because you missed your breakfast.
Well, sir, I'll bet you that I get a whole star, and I'm going to eat every time you do.
Oh, Uncle Bill. 7 food groups, of which one is butter or fat. So great. Because this was part of a national effort to basically make sure that American citizens were getting proper nutrition. And so it was trying to relay this, get your daily 7. So, yeah. Uncle Bill, you fooled us. It'd be nice if it rained a little bit today because it is very polleny outside. The cars are covered in a fluorescent green, and my eyes burn when I go outside. So it's nice to have a little bit of rain just to kind of clear it out. So here's one rainy day.
Jimmy doesn't like rainy days. Not at all. He doesn't like the trouble of putting on boots and taking them off. He doesn't like to wear a raincoat either. It's more extra trouble. See? Jimmy thinks that nobody likes rainy days. But maybe Jimmy will change his mind. For Miss Lane is going to read a story about someone who does like rainy days. The story is called The Little Girl Who Was Glad It Rained. This is Peggy. Peggy is going to the store. That's why she has her purse. There is shopping money in the purse. She also has an umbrella, as anyone can plainly see. Now, why do you suppose Peggy is carrying an umbrella when the sun is shining so brightly? Look, the clouds are heavy and dark. Have you ever seen clouds like this? Do you think it's going to rain? Peggy thinks it is, and she's glad the rain is coming. You see, Peggy and her family like to build a fire outdoors and roast hot dogs and marshmallows. But where Peggy lives, it hasn't rained for weeks and weeks. Do you know what happens when it doesn't rain for a long time? The flowers wither. The trees get dry. They could burn easily. That's why signs are up all over the woods, warning people not to build fires. Not even for roasting hot dogs and marshmallows. The wooden houses are dry too. But now it looks as if the rain is coming at last. After a rain, Peggy and her family will be able to build a fire and roast hot dogs and marshmallows again. That's what Peggy is going to the store to buy. No wonder she's so happy. Peggy doing? What does she want the umbrella of? Listen. Oh, I'm the queen of the circus. A tightrope walker, you know. Away up high in the big top, with everyone watching below. I wear a smile. Ooh, I never frown. Ooh, but really and truly, I'm glad to get down. The wind. Have you noticed that it's almost always windy just before a rain? The wind is blowing the rain clouds closer. Oh, but look here. Doesn't Mrs. Johnson know it's going to rain? Her wash will get wet. Now it's getting darker, and Peggy knows the rain will soon be here. But look at this. If Mrs. Frank doesn't close her window, her floor will get wet. Peggy isn't afraid. She's glad the storm is coming, because afterwards she'll be able to roast the hot dogs and marshmallows she's come to the store to buy. Now everybody knows it's going to rain very soon. It's a good thing Peggy brought the umbrella. One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is it? Is it? It's raining. It's raining. Peggy loves to listen to the sounds of the rain.
Mr. Catcher, raindrops falling, falling, falling everywhere. Lightning, thunder, flashing, crashing, zooming, booming here and there. Raindrops washing streets and sidewalks, washing all the dust away. Trees and flowers drinking, drinking on a rainy, rainy day.
Peggy likes the sounds of the rain. And when the rain is over, they can build a fire and roast the hot dogs and marshmallows. Peggy likes this best of all. And now you know why we call Peggy the little girl who was glad it rained. That story was fun, wasn't it? Jimmy liked that story. He even likes rainy days better. But is it still a rainy day? No, the rain has stopped. After a rain, the air is cool and fresh. And look, it's a rainbow. Isn't this a beautiful way for a rain to end?
So that film had faded red, and we worked to bring the color more balanced, but it was still kind of red shifted. So the rainbow is kind of brown. So you can do some wonders with color correction, but some things you just can't bring back. And so, alas. All right, I have a film actually set up on the telecine. Oh, wrong way. Over here. It's a March of Time film. Oh yeah, somebody noticed I'm wearing a Super Tape T120 video cassette shirt. And I don't know if you noticed, it's at the bottom it says Marmia. Marmia is a, what does it stand for? Mid-Atlantic Regional Moving Image Archive. Marmia. And we have scanned stuff for Marmia, and we work with them and do consulting work with them, and they're pretty great. And this is part of their fundraiser. If you're interested, I can send you a link. They're pretty great. It's pretty much one person, Siobhan Hagen, who does a lot of really great work. And I think at some point we're going to have a digitizing party where she's going to come down after we're all vaccinated, and we're going to scan a bunch of news film that they have. We've done a little bit of that work, but there's a lot of stuff. And it's all this Baltimore news station, so it's stuff from the 60s up to the 80s, I think, that she got donated. So there'll be some interesting stuff in there, I think. All right, so anyways, I've got a 16mm film here. Unfortunately, it's warped a little bit, so I'm going to have to use my finger. And basically, I'm going to have to put my finger right here. This is the sprocketed wheel that measures where the frame is, and if it's like warped like this, then sometimes it doesn't make contact, so the image rolls. So I'm going to have to put my finger right there and hold it. So hopefully I don't have to do it through the entire film, but maybe I will. So, yeah. All right. Here we go. So this is New Ways in Farming.
From time immemorial, the tilling of the soil has been mankind's primary occupation. Poets have given dignity to the role of him who sows and reaps, the keeper of flocks and herds, living by toil in the sweat of his brow. The virtues of rural life are recorded in all literature, from the poems of Horace and Virgil in antiquity down to those of America's Robert Frost today. Traditionally abundant is the farmer's kitchen, filled with good things from garden, field, and barnyard. Popular thinking a symbol of good living, health, and independence. This idea of the rural life as one of contentment and material plenty is deeply ingrained in the minds of most Americans. The fact that farmers have known years of poverty, of near famine and disaster in many regions of the United States, has not discouraged man's instinctive desire to live in direct contact with the soil that gives him sustenance. Yet so diverse and complex are the problems of America's farms that the Department of Agriculture, largest division of the federal government next to the Army and Navy, has made assistance to farmers its full-time business since 1862, year of its founding by Abraham Lincoln. Responsible to the nation, in peace as in war, for the productiveness of its soil and the welfare of the nearly 50% of our total population who live by and on it, the Department of Agriculture has offered much-needed counsel to American farmers ever since Civil War days. Today, regularly employed by the Department of Agriculture are over 75,000 men and women. By far the greater part of them skilled specialists and scientists, whose main job is to help the U.S. farmer in cooperation with his state and local governments. Through 4 short years, from August 1914 to November 1918, America became the great provider of Europe's food and war supplies. U.S. farmers raised more cattle and hogs, grew more of every basic crop than ever before in the nation's history. Spurred on by boom prices, U.S. farmers mortgaged their futures to buy land at fantastic prices and plowed up millions of acres for wartime crops. Moving into the Great Plains, they converted grazing lands into grain fields, planted wheat where no wheat had ever grown before, and none should ever have grown. For this 4 years' boom, farmers paid heavily when post-war depression brought bankruptcy and foreclosure to hundreds of thousands. But greatest loss to the nation came when rains and floods washing over treeless, grassless acres swept away forever billions of tons of irreplaceable fertile topsoil. Thus today, U.S. Soil Conservation Service reports 100 million acres of land either completely eroded or damaged, 200 million more threatened with erosion. Completing the work of destruction were the disastrous years of drought, when wind, stripping the idle farmlands, made a lifeless desert of thousands of square miles of once rich territory. In the 1930s, driven from their homes by the marching desert, whole farm communities became landless wanderers, without means of subsistence, presenting the nation with a new problem. Thousands upon thousands of landless families became an added factor in the combination of poverty, falling markets, and unsold surpluses, which prolonged the worst depression in all U.S. history. And in the Deep South, on land farmed for centuries, man's long-continued failure to put back into the soil what he took out was punished by nature in impoverishment. As a result, southern one-crop farming has left 33% of the U.S. farm population with less than 15% of the nation's farm income. Grappling with the problem of proper land use is Georgia's distinguished native son, textile tycoon Cason Calloway, who feels that only Southern energy and initiative can solve the South's farm problems. At his 30,000-acre Blue Springs Farms near LaGrange in the Piedmont region of Georgia, Calloway is breaking ground for a new era for the South he loves. Here, bulldozers shape the land profile into farmable contours so that land wasted by generations of one-crop farming may be replenished by soil-enriching crops like Sericea lespedeza, a forage whose fame is rapidly spreading as a gully healing remedy for eroded soil. Having chosen his land from among the worst that the South could offer, Calloway is also restoring it to use through such old-time U.S. crops as the Scuppernong grape, prized for its wine since America's earliest days. And the ubiquitous blueberry, which has also been found to grow luxuriantly on soil too impoverished to support other crops. But major crop at Blue Springs Farms, because of its power to restore depleted southern land, is kudzu, a little-known vine imported from China. High in carotene and protein content, growing readily in eroded gullies, kudzu offers nourishment not only to animals, but to man in the form of soups and vitamin preparations. Milestone in the South's difficult transition from the cabin and the cotton setup is Blue Springs Farm's dehydrating plant, first to produce artificially dried hay in the South. Kudzu, hay, and lespedeza are processed in 30 minutes from field to bags, thus saving all the precious vitamin A so frequently lost by traditional methods. Callaway's livestock, grazing on restored pastures, fatten quickly and provide natural fertilizer necessary to any well-rounded soil conservation project. Having proved by his 5 years of experimentation that even the most depleted land can be brought back into highly diversified production, Callaway is today trying out other operations, such as duck raising, possible for farms with small capital and little machinery. A significant new solution to the eternal problems of agriculture is to make farming a big-scale modern industry. For years, North American wheat has been produced most profitably on large farms. But today, none is more thoroughly industrialized than the 50,000-acre Tulare Lake Ranch in San Joaquin Valley, California, where giant combines lick the wartime labor shortage. With a few skilled men operating huge fleets of these and other costly machines, owner Elmer von Glan has been able to slash labor costs a third. Moving his grain from field to elevator at the rate of 600 tons daily, he has demonstrated that with plenty of capital and good management, mechanized agriculture can be made as profitable a big business as any other. But it is to U.S. truck farming that industrial methods have brought the most revolutionary development. Seabrook Farms in South New Jersey is America's biggest, most fabulous truck garden, whose 15,000 acres surround a vegetable processing plant. With assets today valued at $10 million, Seabrook employs over 3,000 unionized workers, whose rate of pay has no relation to seasonal farm prices. Agronomist Seabrook, aided by his 2 sons, is carrying on a family tradition of progressive, imaginative farming. With assembly line precision, each operation at Seabrook's follows detailed charts made out the year before, accounting for every day of the 7-month season. Seabrook's hired hands are provided with modern living quarters, and field and office workers may obtain inexpensive meals at the farm cafeteria. Harvesting peas at Seabrook Farms is an object lesson in scientific management. Modern machines mow and load vines and peas, which are later threshed at the central processing plant. Characteristic of Seabrook's big-scale methods, a fleet of airplanes dust his crops with insecticides at the rate of an acre per plane per minute, thereby saving hundreds of thousands of man-hours. But most drastic innovation in truck farming is the fact that at Seabrook's cannery, vegetables pass from field to can in less than 3 hours, reducing vitamin loss to a minimum. Seabrook's methods in handling vegetables, canned, dehydrated, or frozen in the largest quick freeze plant in America, threaten to revolutionize truck farming practices throughout the nation.
Today, in many a rural community, the ominous challenge of mass production farming threatens the none too secure livelihood of the hard-working independent farmer. The better to equip themselves to farm smartly and profitably so that they can compete with the big producer, enterprising small farmers all over the U.S. are finding in increasing numbers their solution in cooperatives. Since the First World War, these voluntary farmers' co-ops have grown to be a vital factor in the agricultural economy of the nation. Among the most widespread of all present-day cooperatives are those made possible by the Rural Electrification Administration, which during the past 9 years has been granting loans to small farmers, enabling them to finance power systems. Over 1 million farms throughout the nation have become electrified through REA, increasing fourfold the number of farmers using light and power. And despite wartime restrictions on materials and skilled labor, REA still managed to complete an occasional, highly welcome power project.
Electric power isn't something just for a few of us. It's not a luxury for a rich man. It's a farmer's working tool. It now gives me a great deal of pleasure on behalf of the directors and members by declaring the first part of the Siegel Electric line energized.
Electric power, made possible by government loans totaling $400 million, is letting farmers in remote areas use many labor-saving devices. With electric power on his property, the small farmer can exploit his land with greater efficiency, broaden the scope and multiply the variety of his farming, and materially increase his farm income. Many a farmer's wife looks ahead to a post-war world in which modern kitchen devices to lighten her daily tasks once more will be available. But though science has pointed the way toward new horizons in agriculture, which the alert U.S. farmer accepts, always there will be those content to follow the traditional ways of their forefathers. For on many a small farm in America, as throughout the world, farming is not and never will be a modern business, but will remain primarily a rule of thumb craft, an age-old and hallowed way of life.
I have like a crank now. So I don't know if you can see. That's what finger I was using, and that's some of the dirt that came off the film. And, you know, periodically I would like take the finger off because sometimes the further you get into a reel, the less warped it gets. But that was new. That pretty much consistently was warped throughout. I mean, beautiful footage, though. Holy cow. And kudzu. They talk about kudzu. The miracle of kudzu. Living in the South, we see a lot of kudzu. And it, you know, like most invasive species, just kind of went nuts when introduced as a miracle whatever. So, I mean, I still think there's some value in kudzu. I think it does actually help with erosion, but it will cover and kill any other vegetation. So that's the downside of it. And to see it spread, like down the street, I think kudzu kind of took over this whole area. And like it didn't take very long for it to take over. And it grows like crazy. All right, what else we got today? I should say, if you like what you're watching, or at least you're kind of intrigued by it, you can buy some coffee at Buy Me a Coffee with the EE. So buymeacoff.ee/avgeeks. You can also hit like and subscribe and share. You know, the idea is that we show this to a bunch of people. And we get a lot of eyeballs on it, and that's you are part of that equation of sharing this with people that you think would like it and dig it. All right, let's see what we got. Here's a Cornet film, How Energy is Produced.
The bits of paper are attracted to the comb because it is charged with a certain kind of electricity called static electricity. Static electricity is caused by friction, that is, by the rubbing together of certain materials. Electricity that flows in wires is called current electricity. A common dry cell battery produces current electricity by chemical means. The battery in a car produces enough current electricity by chemical means to start the car, run the windshield wipers, operate a dozen or so lights, and run many other electrical things. Very small amounts of current electricity are produced in other ways. Light produces the electricity to move the needle on this photographic exposure meter. The meter needle moves less when there is less light. When there is no light, no electricity is produced, and the needle doesn't move at all. The current electricity that comes into the home is produced by magnets. This kind of electricity is put to many uses. It provides us with light. It's used to run many machines in the home, such as vacuum cleaners, refrigerators, food mixers, and dozens of other machines. Current electricity is used to provide heat, both for cooking and warmth. Electricity is one of the most basic necessities of modern life. The story of this kind of current electricity begins a long time ago, back in the year 1831, when there lived a scientist named Michael Faraday. Faraday's greatest interest was in electricity. A usable kind of electricity had been created in those days by chemical means, but the big, awkward batteries were used only in research laboratories. Scientist Faraday suspected that there was another way of producing electricity. He conducted a simple yet important experiment that proved his suspicion. For his experiment, he used a magnet and a coil of wire. A measuring instrument called a galvanometer was used. The ends of the coil of wire were attached to the galvanometer. As he passed the magnet back and forth through, but without touching the coil of wire, the needle on his galvanometer moved. What caused it to move? Faraday reasoned, and rightfully so, that the magnet had induced an electric current in the wire. His simple apparatus was actually an electrical generator. Most generators in use today are based on the same principle discovered by this pioneer scientist. Faraday's principle is at work in this small electric generator. Instead of one magnet, there are three. Within the magnets, there is a coil of wire. The coil is on a shaft attached to a crank. When the crank is turned, it spins the coil of wire. When the coil is spun next to the magnets, the pull of the magnets, called the magnetic lines of force, cause an electric current to flow in the coil of wire. A meter, similar to Faraday's galvanometer, is attached to the generator and will show the amount of current electricity produced. The electricity thus produced is capable of doing work, such as powering an electric light bulb. Here, Man is providing the energy to turn a small generator and produce electricity. But to produce a great amount of electricity, a generator hundreds of times larger is needed, powered by a force much greater than the strength of a man's arm. A generator the size of this one produces enough electricity to meet the needs of thousands of people. Two main kinds of energy are used to run large generators. They are either steam power or the power of falling water. The energy that turns this generator is falling water. An electric plant where water is used as a source of energy is called a hydroelectric plant. The story of producing electricity at a hydroelectric plant begins at the source of the water, often a high mountain lake. By one means or another, the water from the lake is diverted to the hydroelectric plant below. At this lake, large pipes called penstocks are used to carry water from the lake across hills and valleys that lie below the lake, down steep mountain slopes to the power plant below. In this cutaway model of a hydroelectric generator, we can see how water, falling with tremendous force, travels through the penstock and around an adjustable valve which controls the amount of flow. The water strikes the blades of a water wheel, causing it to turn. The water wheel is attached to the generator shaft. When the water wheel turns, the generator turns. This small generator produced current electricity by magnetic means. The force of a man's arm turned the generator. This large generator also produces current electricity by magnetic means. The force of falling water turns the generator. There is enough water falling through the penstocks of this hydroelectric plant to run several generators. The operation of all these generators is carefully watched and regulated at a central control room located within the plant. Surprisingly enough, just a few men are needed to run and oversee the many important functions at a modern hydroelectric plant. Adjustments in generator speeds are made directly from the central control board. Careful notes are kept on how the generators and other pieces of equipment are operating, as shown on dozens of precision meters. Numerous charts automatically record the flow of water through the penstocks, hour by hour throughout the day. Another control board is used to regulate and observe the operation of a smaller hydroelectric plant located many miles away. There need not be a single person on duty at this distant plant, which operates continuously by remote control from the main power plant. Electricity from the hydroelectric plant is sent out through heavy wires. This is high voltage electricity, much more powerful than the electricity used in the home. The electricity travels across mountains and valleys, across hundreds of miles of countryside. Eventually, it reaches a substation in your community. Here, transformers are used to reduce the high voltage electricity to lower power. Other transformers, located on neighborhood power poles, reduce the electricity to the proper voltage for use in the home. Perhaps you'd like to know more about electricity. There are many good books on the subject, and many that tell how to perform interesting experiments. But do remember one thing. If you experiment, for safety's sake, always use dry cell batteries, not the electricity that comes into the home. simple experiments will prove the principles that we've seen. How static electricity is produced by friction. How current electricity is produced by chemical action. How very small amounts of current electricity are produced by light. And how magnets are used to produce a great amount of electricity for our everyday use.
So that was not Coronet, that was Pat Dowling Films, one of those little tiny educational film companies that made some films and would advertise in the back of educational screen. So there's a lot of those little regional things, people who were kind of semi-professional filmmakers who would sometimes shoot materials and edit them together and then have narration, and then they would sell them. They didn't have the means and the sales force that Encyclopedia Britannica or Coronet had, but still pretty neat to see. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock to watch some more films. As always, thank you for your eyeballs and your attention. It's great. I mean, I have all these films and I love showing them, and you guys tuning in and watching it means a lot. Because I probably would still do it even if there was a handful of you, but the more people that show up, the more fun it is, and the more eyeballs can see this stuff, and that's what I like. Everybody have a good rest of your day. If you're in the South, well, anywhere in the United States probably, be aware of the pollen. It's gross. But please rewind and love each other, and we will see you tomorrow. Take care.